What's your "oh man, this will never happen again" moment in D&D? Part 1. I mean, what was the coolest, most unique moment for you? Maybe it was a crystallizing moment where everyone was enraptured with what was happening, watching with bated breath. Maybe it was a character's tragic death. Maybe it was an extremely unlikely win in a desperate scenario. Share with us. Help us get through the murk swamp that is Wednesday. Mine is one moment in 3.5 where I thought I saved the party but ended up making the DM rewrite some of his plot. We were level 2s. Mine was a human ranger named Wraith, going through a cave network fighting goblins and those living stalagmites that drop on you when a high-level villain shows up. A CR7 drow. Important for the story, this DM had some rules for crits that I don't know if they're canon or homebrew. I was brand new at the time. He would have us roll, and if we critted, confirm the crit with another versus enemy AC roll. Then, if you rolled another crit there, you would proceed to a third stage, in which the roll didn't mean anything unless you critted a third time, where you would auto-kill the enemy. Anyway, the drow hand crossbows one party member. He's down. He uses a freeze spell on another and disarms me. Crap, he's gonna kill us. What would Wraith do? Well, he's an amnesiac forest hobo who only cares about these new friends and finding a cure. His friends are gonna die. He doesn't have a weapon. But wait, what's this in my pack? I tell the DM. Wraith draws his camp shovel and sprints at the drow, screaming like a maniac. I roll my attack at his behest. It's a 20. Okay, confirm. It's a 20. Roll again. It's another 20. Wraith, screaming like the slightly crazed hobo he is, runs up to this drow who could kill him near instantly and slams the blade of his shovel through his forehead, dropping it to the ground. Dead as a doornail. The silence at the table was palpable. The DM stares at me like, shit, my plot, but that was awesome. Then everyone freaks out. I'll most likely never have a gaming moment like that ever again. I later found out that the drow was just about to teleport away and was just doing a cameo for a plot hook. Nobody was supposed to die that day. But Wraith, you glorious bastard. I will never forget you. I have to play him again someday. A character, a monk, tackled the big bad evil guy, a super beefed up Oni with levels of wizard and fighter, into a trench on the battlefield at the climax of the campaign. Another character, a rogue, jumped in, and they all started having this desperate struggle at the bottom of a 10-foot deep trench. A third character, a wizard, ran up, saw the BBEG bloodied, but both his companions in single-digit HP, and no help anywhere near. The player looked at the other two players and said to one of them, "You're still carrying those 5 flasks of oil on a bandolier, right?" After the player confirmed, he said, "I'm sorry, guys," and then fireballed all of them with his highest level spell slot. He was in the radius too, only 10 feet away. I forget the exact damage, but it was 90 plus points. BBEG and 3 player characters insta-killed. We all had our jaws on the fucking floor. I love the stories that can come out of pure RNG sometimes, to be honest, and this one happened just last week with my local crew. Party comes across a long 100-foot gap over a river, with a broken rope bridge hanging down. Party is deliberating on what to do, and it is decided that the cleric will drink a potion of flying to zip across, and a potion of growth to get a bonus to strength and haul the bridge over so she could repair it and have the group cross. I say, hang on. I think there's a rule about drinking multiple potions at the same time. Still want to do it? Some crazy stuff could happen. They're still at the game, so I bust out the table, drop the dice, and for the first time in 21 years of gaming, I roll a natural 100 on percentile dice. For those unfamiliar, this means one potion fails to work, but the other potion's duration becomes permanent. The party is pretty excited about this, everyone chanting "flying" over and over again, hoping our cleric can now fly forever. I decide to give it a 50-50 shot. Evens, flying becomes permanent. Odds, and its growth. Long story short, the party now has a 9-foot tall, 1,500-pound dwarven cleric and needs to come up with a new plan to cross the chasm. Afternote, the cleric will eventually use Dispel Magic to get rid of the effect, but she's enjoying it for now. Says she'll drop it after an upcoming dragon fight. Meanwhile, she doesn't go up to the 2nd floor of the inn they're staying at and avoids sitting on most furniture. 4. My party found a legendary sword and I was using a magic whip. Another party member had a lasso at the same time. We say, "I want to Indiana Jones that sword." We both get 20, so now we are playing tug of war with a super powerful sword. Sadly, the group fell apart after that due to some life issues, so some say those two are still fighting over it to this day. I drank too much and proceeded to be a total jackwagon, and goofed off too much, struggled to even read. After my brother, the DM, rage quit, I told myself it could never happen again. I still sometimes have a beer, but just enough to keep that glow. We still play, and I even DM sometimes. Don't be the drunk asshole at the table. Might seem fun at the time, but mostly you're just being a dick. Playing Lost Mines, headed north down the river. Party notices some goblins across the ford and behind some shrubbery. I state that I want a somersault over the river and through the woods to punch the dude in the throat. And classic Red Riding Hood sing-song. Rolled 18 for athletics and nat 20 for attack. The game nearly ended in laughter. The next session after I thought my character died, he got struck by lightning by the big bad evil guy while separated from the rest of the party. He was found bleeding out in the snow. When the rest of the party caught up, the BBEG, nowhere to be found. My DM ended session after that, and we were left on a cliffhanger over whether my character lived or died for about a week. At the start, my DM requested that someone video record the first 5 minutes of the session. After we turned on the camera, he looked over toward me and played some music. He began narrating my character's life, flashing before his eyes, recapping his adventurer over the course of the campaign. He retold a couple of things, like my character's past as a lonely child living on the streets without memories of his past. The first time he met the group, the weird dreams he'd have, the time he met the woman he'd fall for, the encounters he'd had fighting the BBEG, etc. My character had faced many trials, and even when there seemed like there was no hope, my character continued to take things head-on and seek happiness. But there was one thing that escaped my character, and my DM ended the flashes with one last question. But who are you? I was left with some chills after he'd finished and told us to turn off the camera. Thankfully, my character lived and now has a chance to answer that question for himself. 8. I was DMing and Eberron campaign with heavy Lyrandar ties, and we used to play outside in a park, and when they reached the Storm Island base of the Lyrandar family, I stood and said, "Welcome to the Storm Island!" Just then, a single lightning crashed behind me, and a second or two after that, the thunder came in. I never had a more dramatic narration on my entire life. As a cleric without a ranged weapon and no offensive spells, we had a group fight. The scene is set like this. We are in a group of 5 horse-drawn sleds in a desert. We are being chased by 3 bandit horse-drawn sleds. Melee is pretty much out of the question since I am not about to leap from my sled. I have already cast my useful group spells to help out the party and my turn rolls around again. So what do? I cast Create Water right in the face of an enemy horse, all 4 gallons right at once. The horse is shocked and instinctively ducks. The horse trips into the sand and the sled crashes right into him. This, of course, killed the horse in a bloody mess and killed 3 bandits along with it. It was one of the better attacks made in that fight. I was very proud of my DM for letting a role-playing style attack work. Our party entered a slaver town focused on gladiatorial combat. Our lawful good paladin and chaotic good rogue ended up buying a young boy with the intention of saving him and letting him go free. Apparently that's illegal, and so they trained him to be a gladiator. They treated the kid super well, and the kid even won his first few fights, earning the paladin and rogue enough money to keep buying slaves, eventually training up a small militia force with the intention of overthrowing the slaver society. It was a recurring plot in our campaign with the gladiator school. They started becoming our home base, and eventually the slaves they bought led a revolution with our help, freeing all the slaves. When playing an evil campaign, we were tasked with taking out the mayor in order to make way for a cultist employer to take over. Rather than work to infiltrate the mayoral mansion with all of its guards and defenders, we spent a few weeks creating a barrel of oil of impact. Explosive, don't get ahead of me. Then our drow levitated with barrel about 300 feet above the mansion and dropped it. Needless to say, the mayor was indeed dead, as was half the town. The DM's plot, and rather than stay, our lively band of murder hobos just went to the next town of victims. A Yuan-Ti once casted darkness to facilitate his escape, and one of my players got to unironically fire magic missile into the darkness. That was pretty great. But I'd say the top moment is when my buddy's level 2 fighter rolled a nat 20 when throwing a stake at a vampire cleric to stop her casting a spell at us and, killed her. That was pretty tight. Be me, a cleric. I just got my 3rd level spells and kept them top secret from my team. Be not me. Our monk takes off around a corner to take on 3 fire elementals by himself, one of which could kill him instantly. I have no line of sight, and the corridor is blocked by a fire elemental. I run through the fire elemental. DM says he allows it, but I take damage and catch fire. Okay, cool. I draw my dagger, raise it into the air, invoking the name of Pelor, and drive it deep into my chest. Everyone freezes. Monk has 1-digit HP. Our party is nowhere to be found, and I have stabbed myself. I cast Life Transference, roll near max, and take 20-some damage, healing our monk more than 40 HP. We narrowly escape. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you like what we do, or you hate what we do, or you've got a story that you'd like for us to do, please let us know with your comments.